In the hierarchy of professional bike races, people would tend to put the Tour de France at the top. It's the pinnacle of the sport, and therefore the best to watch. Or is it? Maybe the Giro, more beautiful perhaps, more unpredictable, more spectacular. But then if you really want spectacle, perhaps Paris-Roubaix with its epic battles on savage cobbles. What people will also tend to do though, is say that Milan-San Remo is the worst to watch. I mean, not the worst out of everything, but certainly the worst of the classics, and certainly the worst of the 5 monuments. But I think you're wrong. Totally wrong. I think Milan-San Remo is the best bike race of the year. The finale never ever disappoints, with nail-biting excitement right down to the line, fought out by the best riders in the sport, with sprinters, climbers and classic specialists all racing shoulder to shoulder. You can't say that about any other race except perhaps the World Championships, but then, even then, it's not guaranteed like Milan-San Remo. So let me explain, and then you can let me know at the end if you agree and if I have convinced you. Although, before we start, there is a big caveat here. Milan-San Remo does not have a women's race anymore. It had one for a bit, but now it doesn't. And it needs to have one again. So this really, it should be said, is the best men's race of the year. Firstly, I'll grant you, Milan-San Remo is long, like really long. And for most of its 298 kilometers, not much happens. For that reason, a lot of people say that Milan-San Remo is boring, a snooze fest. And that's not fair, because the fact that not much happens early on is actually part of it. Because you see, Milan-San Remo is a masterpiece, like a brilliant piece of literature or an epic piece of music. It builds and builds and builds. You know what's coming, and that's what makes it even better. So the race is long, but unlike a piece of literature, you don't have to plow through all of it. So my tip is actually not to watch the first bit, but instead tune in for the pre-race show on GCN+, get in the mood, and then step away. It's enough to know that the race is on. They are actually racing from Milan to San Remo, so the anticipation is already starting to build, but then you can crack on with something else. Go for a bike ride maybe, and just wait for your moment to return to the action. Now, you might argue that there is no point in there being a bike race this long if you don't actually want to watch it. But no, the length is essential to the success of the race at the end, because the length adds the perfect dynamic. It makes the riders really tired, and really tired riders make for great racing. Because you see, fatigue, or the resistance to fatigue, is what separates the best from the rest, and that's when real class shines through. And it's partly what means that we have this fantastic mix of riders who are all in with a chance of winning it. Because how many races can you name both sprinters and Tour de France champions among the favourites for the victory? When the race then reaches 230 or 240 kilometres, it's ready. Like a fine wine, when you've waited long enough, stop what you're doing, sit down, open up GCN+, and enjoy, because you can now give the race your full attention. Ideally, you want about 90 minutes to go, but if you are tight for time, you can still enjoy it with 30 minutes to go, because it's likely to be fairly steady at this point, so you can use this moment to catch up on what's been going on. Have any of the favourites dropped out already? Who's still left from the break? What's the gap? And also, you just watch the amazing scenery, listen to the commentary, and allow yourself to get very, very excited, because you know what's still to come. And that anticipation is almost as good as the finale itself. I love this bit. You don't have to give it your full attention, just soak up the ambiance. Now, the penultimate act in our sporting opera is when the race hits the Cipressa. This is the second from last climb, and this is where we will really see how the big favourites are going to shape up. It's round one of sprinter versus climber versus puncher. Generally speaking, we won't see many or any major attacks up the Cipressa from the big favourites, although we do sometimes. It is unexpected, and the unexpected happens. But what we need to see, and what we're looking out for, are who goes out the back. Because after 7 hours of racing, which sprinters' races are already over? Because it's time to start crossing out favourites from the form book. And at this point in the race, with this much fatigue in the legs, surprising things begin to happen. So this year, could the break stay away? Not likely. Or, after the Cipressa, Whoever attacks there, will they hold on? Who is going to bring them back? Meanwhile, the bunch heads along at a ferocious pace. It's like the biggest bunch sprint of the year, with everyone fighting for position, knowing full well that the riders are so tired, if someone wastes their effort here, it could be their undoing. Only this bunch sprint, the finish line is 10 kilometers before the end of the race, the bottom of the Poggio. The anticipation has now built to its climax. This is what it's all about. The best 15 minutes in all of cycling. You know the attacks are going to come on the Poggio, but who? And who can follow them? Is climber against sprinter against puncher round 2? Gaps start to appear. Are they big enough for the riders to go the distance? And then the descent. Holy mackerel, is there a sketchier descent in cycling? It's all or nothing. Who dares wins? Or at least makes it onto the final couple of flat kilometers, potentially for a high-speed drag race to the line, potentially for a game of cat and mouse. Who is the fastest? Who's got the best legs? Are there any sprinters left in the mix? Is everyone just going to wait for Wout van Aert to chase? Now you name another monument or classic where you can guarantee this level of excitement to the very end. Don't get me wrong, I love Flanders, I love Roubaix, but the last 10 or 20 Ks can get a bit meh. You know, after the Paterberg or the Carrefour de l'Arbre, we're either left waiting for a sprint or watching a lone breakaway. But with Milan-San Remo though, it's edge of the seat right to the line. So let me know what you think. I will be watching eagerly this Saturday on GCN+. It's available in all territories, except for New Zealand. So make sure you watch it too. And if nothing else, put 30 minutes aside. You will not regret it. It's almost guaranteed. Yeah, I've guaranteed it. Best 30 minutes in all of cycling.